So all yours, please start. Grade 12.
Mrinal, you can start sharing your screen. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ashrita, and we have Samiksha, Ritti, Snehal, Priyanka, Mrinalini, Anvita, Sukumari, Akshita. All of us are from Grade 12th Commerce. And before we start our presentation, firstly, we'd like to talk a little bit about why we chose this project. So, firstly, we chose this project because of the similarities with our school curriculum and the project. So we thought maybe when we when we get to know more about the information about geopolitics, we can connect it to our school curriculum, because being commerce students, we have a lot to do with political science. I mean, I'm humanities, so personally, I even study political science. So I thought I could connect the dots and get to know more information. And I can happily say that I successfully got to know a lot in this project. And not just about that, but I got to know a lot that how we just sit at home and there's so much stuff happening around us which we don't even know. And I think I have started reading the newspapers now, and after all the information I got, I can clearly, when I read about the European Union, after the first video I watched, now I can actually clearly understand what the news is actually meaning. So now when I read the newspaper, I can actually understand every article clearly. And I would really like to thank all the teachers for this project. And now for our presentation, we were really confused because our juniors did a great job with adding humor in their presentations, with an information in the presentation. So we were really confused about what we should do for our presentation. And as Independence Day is coming, we thought, how about we show all the obstacles India faced? Like, we had a lot of boundary issues, we had issues within the country also. So we thought we will be doing the presentation about geopolitics around India and within India also. So we'll be talking about the international disputes we had, and also the within India, like between states, whatever boundary disputes we've had. So we're going to have this presentation filled with a lot of information. So I hope everyone enjoys the presentation. So Mrinal, you can change the slide. So firstly, I would like to start with India and China. From Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai, which means India and Chinese are brothers. I'm pretty sure most of us heard the slogan, because this slogan was very popular back in the olden days. But from this, how did we go to boycott China? I mean, like, these are two different slogans, and from such a slogan wherein they called two countries brothers, and now we're asking to boycott China. So basically, this happened because of two main conflicts. And these two main conflicts disrupted the Indo-China relations. One was when China had claimed the Northeast Frontier Agency, NEFA, now the Arunachal, which we now call Arunachal Pradesh. And the second one was when China questioned India's stance on the Dalai Lama issue. So we will be focusing on the NEFA conflict right now. And bilateral tensions actually got out of control, and the two countries were embroiled in a bloody war in 1962, and in which India was largely outnumbered and outgunned by the Chinese armed forces, because we just came out of the partition, India-Pakistan partition, and the British just left. We were still in the process of making the constitution, and this sudden Chinese war, we couldn't actually fight back. So we have been like outnumbered, and India had a huge impact because of this war. And just a bonus information, after this war, our government was criticized a lot, because Jawaharlal Nehru, who was then the Prime Minister, had always thought China would be a very close friend of India, and he never really expected China to turn and have a war like this. So everyone criticized Jawaharlal Nehru that because he couldn't actually find out that China was actually a threat to India. So after this, after the end of the border war, endeavors were made by the two nations to repair and renew their friendly relation. So some contracts were signed and everything happened, and they were peaceful. They all thought they're friends again. But does it end here? No. We once again tensions was underway, because the two nations in 1986 near the Sundarong Chu Valley in Arunachal Pradesh. In 1986, Chinese forces gathered at this Sundarong, but the Indian armed forces came strongly and challenged the Chinese troops. Because now Indian army is very strong. We are strong internally and our defense is very strong. So this time we stood straight and we did not let the Chinese troops, and the Chinese troops could not dare to move further into the valley. But it did not stop here also. We had the Doklam dispute of 2017 and the skirmish of 2019 and the Ladakh LAC stand of 2020. So we can understand that the relationship between China and India has always remained on the edge of this war. Mrinalini, can you change the slide? So when I was going through the articles, I found this meme, I found this cartoon, which was very, I felt that this was very nice because it actually clearly shows the intensity between India and China, because everything, it was like, we cannot never expect India and China. We don't know what will happen because China is very powerful right now, and both the India and China are very powerful in Asia right now, and we don't know what will happen. So many people even think that India and China, there'll be a war, and that can be like the World War III will be between India and China. So if you can see, the man is confused between what World War III would be in Iran and USA versus India versus China. So now Mrinalini will continue and talk more about the LAC stand of 2020, which is presently the concern.
Okay, so what is India-China relation right now? So the standoff between India and China at the line of actual control has been the worst standoff between the two regional powers in over 45 years. What cannot be ignored, obviously, is the geopolitical impact of this conflict. But what led to the escalation when the standoff started? When the standoff began, there was a lot of uncertainty on what actually led to the escalation. So the first argument is that the tension started to escalate since April 2019 as both China and India were building military infrastructure in the Galwan sector to assert their control and dominance, and both of them ended up frustrating the other. The second argument is, in August 2019, India revoked Article 370, which brought the Ladakh region under the central rule. This change in status quo eventually led to the flare-up. But in this whole thing, where does geopolitics enter the equation? So China shares the cordial relations with Pakistan, and the relations reached a new depth when Pakistan and China in 2015 initiated the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, known as the CPEC. So this is the most valuable part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, known as the BRI. And this goes to the Pakistani-administered region of Kashmir. And as recently, India has made a claim of taking POK back. This is seen as a direct threat by the Chinese and Pakistanis to the CPEC project. India sees this project as a strategy by China to isolate it in the region because China is trying to invest in India's neighbors like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. But few of the scholars believe that that India the government in India may end up isolating itself because it rejected in China when they offered India to join the BRI. But the reason behind the failure is a mistrust between New Delhi and Beijing, which is now beyond the breaking point after this border dispute. However, China does not see India as a great power competition, but it sees USA as a main rival in the global stage, which brings us to the next geostrategic implication. After assessing this whole conundrum between India and China, some scholars believe that this situation will help both US and India. What they say is that the increase in animosity between US and China will push New Delhi towards Washington, because as we all know, an enemy of our enemy is a friend.
Okay, so hello everyone, my name is Snehal and I'll be talking about the border dispute between India and Bangladesh. So I chose to talk on this topic because the border dispute and the way they handled and the agreements they made interested me a lot. Mrinalini, can you go to the next slide? Okay, so the border between India and Bangladesh is highly crucial to their bilateral relationship, which has always been difficult to manage given, for one, its sheer length. The most important bilateral initiative between Bangladesh and India was the attempt to resolve the long-standing border dispute that arose after the partition of 1947 by the 2015 Land Boundary Agreement and the exchange of enclaves and adverse positions between the two countries. Now, what is the Land Boundary Agreement? Under this deal, which was signed in Dhaka in the presence of our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, and his Bangladeshi counterpart, Sheikh Hasina, The two countries swapped some 200 tiny enclaves dotted around the border. Their inhabitants have been deprived of public servants and living in squalid conditions. This was established by a treaty between two former princely states. The 106 Indian enclaves in Bangladesh and 92 Bangladeshi enclaves in India are islands of foreign territory inside each country. So under this pact, each country will take over the most of the enclaves on its territory, and the residents will have the right to stay where they are or to move to the other side of the border. So that's how this border issue ended.
Yes, hello everyone, I'm Radha Priyanka, and now I'm going to talk about the Indo-Nepal relations and the disputes which occurred. So, most of us know that Nepal was a friendly nation to us, but then in the late 1980s, the issues started. But then there was a treaty signed during the British India in 1816, which was the Treaty of Sugali, which was signed by the Kingdom of Nepal and the British India after an Anglo-Nepalese war. So it was located at the Kali River. So Nepal shares the western boundary of India. And recently, Nepal has released a political map which claims that the Kalapani, Limpiyudara and Lipulekh, which are part of Uttarakhand in India, are a part of Nepal. But then similarly, India rejected the claims of Nepal, and it persuaded Nepal to delete its the regions from the map. And Nepal's move, it came after the Indian's defense minister. He recently inaugurated a motorable link road which connects India to China. So it significantly reduced the time of Kalish Mano Sarvar Yatra. And there was a lot of discrepancy in locating the source of Kali River, which led to boundary disputes between India and Nepal. So both of the countries, India and Nepal, had their own claims. And here, if you could see, India's respect Nepal's sovereignty. There were a lot of protests saying that India should not involve in China's integral matters, be it boundaries or anything, because Nepal has its own claims, and the kingdom has its own claims regarding the regions. Mrinalini, next slide. Yes, so this is the Tri-Junction dispute. If you could see here, there is India, Nepal, and China. There's a junction of 3 countries together near the Kalapani region and the Kali River. So here, and the Lipulekh, if you could see, and there is Limpiyudara Pass, which is recently inaugurated by the Indian defense minister, saying it's a motorable area, and that means the passengers can travel through road. So this is the picture description of the issue. Mrinalini, next slide. Yes, so here are some of the memes. Can any one of the audience explain what you understood from the memes? Anyone? Even the teachers can do it.
So from the second meme, I understood that if there's a war between India and China, the whole world will see what is happening in the war, but Nepal will be very scared about its devastation due to the war.
Yeah, I mean, Nepal is the one who's being sandwiched, while all the other countries are just resting and relaxing.
Yeah, right.
And the other 2 memes, anyone?
Yeah, in that picture, Uttar Pradesh, generally they claim to have, and because Nepal, we know that this is one of the nations that follow Hinduism, because their ideology is Hindutva. they want to claim that, yeah, Nepal is part of India. That's what I can infer from Yogi Adityanath.
Yes.
And the first one, Nepal, my reaction when every time they said Nepal, they'll claim that Buddha is born there. India will claim that Buddha is born here. So everybody has a stand on that. And Tibet. I think that way we are talking about my reaction when every time they said Nepal, Buddha was born in India and all. So I think somewhere each one claim regional ownership on that.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, and the last one, this one, that boy with that typical expression. So how they are sandwiched between China and India, because China, because we know how it is trying to prove its might. So by occupying or by indirectly helping them investing in their projects, so that it wants to grow very strong. And then of course India, it has its own share. So it is sandwiched between India and China.
And to add on here, Nepal, that border issue, just what you shared, China is supporting Nepal for that. Nepal is trying to, India is claiming that part is India's. So again here, Nepal is sandwiched between China and India. It doesn't know whether to go and listen to China and take China's decision, or it has to, we have a very good cordial relation with Nepal. So I think, so it is sandwiched in between. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So unfortunately, one of our team members couldn't make it today, so I'll be playing the audio for her.
In the late 20th century, the island nation of Sri Lanka tore itself apart in a brutal civil war. At the most basic level, the conflict arose from the ethnic tension between Sinhalese and Tamil citizens. The cause were much more complex and arose in large part because of Sri Lanka's colonial history. Great Britain ruled Sri Lanka from 1815 to 1948. When British arrived, the country was dominated by Sinhalese, speakers whose ancestors likely arrived on the island from India in the 500s BCE. Sri Lankan people seem to have been in contact with Tamil speakers from southern India since at least the 2nd century BCE. But migration of significant numbers of Tamils to islands appeared to take place in later, between 11th and 7th centuries. In 1815, the population of Sri Lanka numbered about 3 million predominantly Buddhist Sinhalese and 3 lakhs mostly Hindu Tamils. The British established huge cash crops plantation on the island, first coffee and then later of rubber and tea. Colonial officials brought in approximately 1 million Tamil speakers from India to work as plantation laborers. The British also established schools in the northern Tamil majority part of the colony, preferentially appointed Tamils bureaucratic positions, angered the Sinhalese majority. This was the common divide and rule tactic in European colonies that had troubling results in the past colonial era in the places such as Rwanda and Sudan. The British government granted Sri Lanka independence in 1948. The Sinhalese majority immediately began to pass rules that discriminated against Tamils, particularly the Indian Tamils brought to the island by British. They made Sinhalese the official language, driving Tamils out of the civil services. The Ceylon Citizenship Act 1948 effectively barred Indian Tamils from holding citizenship and making stateless people out of some 7 lakh. This is not redeemed until 2003. Anger over such measures that broke out repeatedly in the following years. After decades of increasing ethnic tension, the war begins as low level of insurgency in July 1983. Ethnic riots broke out in Colombo and other cities. Tamil Tiger insurgents killed 13 army soldiers, promoting violent reprisals against the Tamil civilians by their Sinhalese neighbors across the country. Between 2,500 to 3,000 Tamilians likely died, and many thousand more fled to Tamil majority regions. The Tamil Tigers declared the first Elam War from 1983 to 87 with the aim of creating separate Tamil state in northern Sri Lanka called Elam. Much of the fighting was directed initially at the other Tamil factions. The Tamil Tigers massacred their opponents and consolidated the power over the separatist movement by 1986.
Yes, ma'am. I'll finish it up. So now I'll be talking about the India-Pakistan border disputes. So when it comes to cricket or land, Pakistan is India's biggest competition. The land dispute between India and Pakistan, as most of us know, is as old as our country's establishment. It all started over the uncertainties and quarrel over which country the former princely state of Jammu and Kashmir belonged in. In short, the dispute escalated and led to 3 wars and tensions between the two countries to this day. Can you go to the next slide, Mrinalini? The dispute has made a huge impact in the diplomatic relations between the countries, and it also left Kashmir as a sensitive, war-prone zone for years. The Kashmir land dispute has been getting international attention since it's been escalating with no end in sight. The fact that both India and Pakistan are nuclear powers is increasing tension, making a mere border issue a threat to global security.
Yes, okay, so my name is Akshita and I will be talking about the Assam-Mizoram dispute. Violent border clashes between India's northeastern states of Assam and Mizoram last week left several dead and many more injured. The highway connecting Mizoram, a hilly state of 1.3 million people, to the rest of the India is unusually quiet these days. West between Myanmar and Bangladesh, Mizoram is linked to Indian mainland through neighboring Assam. Tensions with Assam escalated on 26 July 2021 after clashes erupted between police on either side of a contentious border point. The two sides fired at each other, leaving 7 dead and 60 people injured. 6 of those killed were policemen from Assam. The regional Mizo National Front rules Mizoram and is a part of Northeastern Democratic Alliance led by India's governing Bharatiya Janata Party. Neighboring Assam is also ruled by a BJP government. But that didn't prevent leaders on both sides from accusing each other of provoking the violence. The two states have filed murder cases against senior officials on the other side. Assam even advised locals against traveling to Mizoram. Mizoram said it is now facing an economic blockade with Assam, preventing vehicles to travel to Mizoram. Under colonial rule, the Shai Hills, as Mizoram was then known, was part of Assam. It was carved out as a centrally administered territory in 1972 and later upgraded to a full-fledged state following an agreement between Delhi and the separatist MNF, which waged a 20-year-long guerrilla campaign against India. At the root of the dispute are 509 square miles area of hills and forests that Mizoram claims as its own. This is on the basis of an 1875 British law, but Assam insists that this area is a part of its constitutional boundary. Since June this year, Mizo villagers living in this disputed area have complained that Assam police, backed by hundreds of villagers, are moving forward to push them out. Assam has similar border disputes with Nagaland, Meghalaya, and Arunachal Pradesh, all of which were also carved out of Assam for fulfilling ethnic tribal aspirations. A firefight between Assam and Nagaland police at Mirapani, a town in Nagaland, in 1985 left 41 people dead, including Assam policemen. A panel in Mizoram, backed by all political parties, has asked Delhi to institute a commission to demarcate the border to the satisfaction of both the states. This is just a map of the border dispute.
Sorry, 12th graders, I think we have to conclude. You have taken the 50% of the time of the session. We have others also waiting. Can you please just conclude? Sorry for saying this.
Yeah, Mrinalini, I think you can skip this.
Should I continue presenting it, or we can just jump to the conclusion?
Yeah.